She's the midnight mistress of fairies and dark mischief. He's the paranormal beacon of mystic fairs and government leaking. If the dark side had a prom, they would be the king and queen. They live the metaphysical and make a wicked awesome team. From every single culture in every corner of the globe, they creep the lore and legends just to keep you in the know. For some it's hyperbole, fantastical and myth. For them it's all too real and your paradigm will shift. It's forever Halloween with all treats and no tricks. He's got a thing for witches and she's all Stevie Nicks. So welcome to our carnival of the weird and the bizarre, where UFOs and curses take shape beneath the stars. Sit back, relax, open your mind and stay a few. It's time for John and Stacey, and do we have something for you? Welcome to the Paranormal Sideshow with your host, John and Stacey Edwards of ParanormalSideshow.com. Hello and welcome to the Paranormal Sideshow. I'm your host, John Edwards, and joined as always by my lovely wife, Stacey.
Hello.
And we just got back from vacation.
Yes, we did.
And it was pretty cool. I mean, it's just one of those things you can't really put into words.
Right.
You know, the summer, the breeze in your hair, the way your eyes look on the beach, and holding hands and skipping along the waves. It's just, it never actually ended up being like that Go-Go's video, did it?
No, it didn't.
Year after year, we try. And we want to lay in the sand and kick our, lay on our belly and kick our legs up behind us, while we're bobbing our heads back and forth.
Right.
And it just never happens.
It never works out.
Instead, do you know what we do? We went looking for the Allagash abductions because that's how we roll. And no, we had a great time. I had a birthday, and that was always fun. I usually make it a week-long celebration of me during a birthday. It's something I started a long time ago and found that it was very refreshing and needed in my life. So I encourage all of you to do the same. Everybody needs a week-long celebration of you.
Week-long birthday.
Oh, yeah, the week-long birthday. I'm actually going to make it a rule when I become ruler of the planet.
Right.
Not necessarily this planet, but a planet somewhere. No, a lot of cool stuff. We'll get to that weirdness here in a second, but obviously people noticed that we were missing.
They did. They
absolutely did. So I got dozens of messages, and thank you all, because I feel very loved now. No, seriously, I want to call some people out. So I actually got somewhere in the neighborhood of 14. Actually, I won't say dozens.
Okay.
I can't remember if it was 14 or 15. Direct messages about where we were, but everybody's being polite. It wasn't like, hey, John, I had to go to work and do this stuff and didn't have the podcast to listen to. Thanks a lot, pal. It wasn't like that,
Right.
It wasn't like, hey, I had to mow the yard and we didn't have you there.
Right.
No, it was very nice. But at the same time, you could kind of get the underlying message, It's like, hey, you guys doing okay? Haven't heard from you. Didn't see any messages pop out there about taking a vacation. How's it going, So I appreciate that. I would be the same way, and I am the same way when something that I look forward to is not there.
Right.
We had every intention of doing a show on vacation, but then vacation happened.
Right. And I don't know where it all went.
Yeah. All of a sudden, there's a lot of planning. There's a lot of prep that goes into the show. When we do the show, it takes the whole day, and then it takes the 2 days after that. A lot of times, because it's not just the editing, but it's also the presentation. It's putting it out there. It's then putting it up on YouTube and all this stuff.
Website building and all that.
Yeah, because she has to put the stories on. So it's actually more like I was on vacation. I kind of wanted Stacey to have a vacation as well, and not have to worry about that. So especially now, we have a couple of podcasts going on in out of the same facility here. So It was better that way, and it's good because, man, do we have a action-packed episode for you guys today.
Yes, lots of news.
Yeah, you could pay for the whole sea, but you're only going to need the edge. It's one of those kind of shows today because we got some crazy stuff to talk about. Pretty excited about it. I'm also excited about the and you would think I was getting paid for this, the YouTube free trial of YouTube Premium.
Yes.
You guys need to try this, okay? Just if you've been thinking about it and you've been like, why would I want YouTube Premium? You know, that was me a couple weeks ago. So number one, I got Apple Music and I listen to a lot of my music on Apple Music. Well, that's all I listen to. I don't have CDs anymore.
Right.
Which is kind of blasphemous. But some of the music I like is not on Apple Music, but it's totally on YouTube. Now, it might be videos.
Right.
But, you know, sometimes I open the YouTube app, and as long as you don't close it, you can't close it or do anything else. You can play the music you want to hear. But some of my, and, you know, people know what I like already, but some of my Danzig or some of my songs like that, or they're not on Apple Music.
Like Tool and stuff like that.
None of the Tool.
None of the Tools on Apple
and
Music.
Tool is like, I could just listen to Tool 24 hours a day the rest of my life. But it is on YouTube, obviously, because of videos. So I got the free trial. It's like a 3-month free trial.
Yeah, it's really generous.
And then there's this YouTube Music app. With the YouTube Music app, I can just like make the playlist. I can just listen to Tool. I can listen to all this stuff. It opened this whole plethora. I can even listen to my own band.
You can.
And it's all on YouTube. So from years ago, but I can make a playlist with my own band in it. That's, you know, and all this stuff. So really fun stuff. But the reason I'm telling you guys this is because we always share, paranormal or not, we like to share, you know, shows that come on that we dig. And I'd have to say, freaking Cobra Kai is well worth your time.
That's the reason we got the trial in the first place.
Oh my God. So we had watched the first 2 episodes when it first came out. And we didn't bite the bullet because we're so busy. We don't ever have time to do anything. We used to binge TV a lot. We just don't have time.
No.
And so it was like, all right, we're on vacation. Let's just do it. And oh my God, you talk about how, I mean, me and Stacey are both pretty small when that Karate Kid movie came out. It wasn't, you know, we weren't the same age as the kids acting in it, you know.
Right.
But still, yeah, Daniel was one of Stacey's crushes as a kid. So, and Johnny was one of mine. So I like to pattern myself after many things of Johnny on Cobra Kai.
Yes.
But and still yet, it seems that way. When you watch it now, it's like watching.
It's a good show.
Oh, it's a good show.
It was funny.
It's one of those things, like, we don't talk about those kind of shows that we like to watch, right? Like, not really. Well, that's wholesome, I would say. It's kind of somewhat wholesome.
Right.
But we love that show. We like the show called Father Brown. You would never think it. It's like if you were going through Netflix and you're like, I want to see what John and Stacey watch. You know, they'd be like, Father Brown? Oh, documentary on alien abductions. Okay, yeah, I get that. You know, it would just be like really, even Doctor Who. People understand Doctor Who, all this stuff that we watch, but we do watch a little bit crazy stuff here and there. But most of it, because I don't want to let people down, most of it really is Charmed. We can watch Charmed, Buffy, all day long, Doctor Who all day long. That's our go-tos. And but no, funny stuff. I just thought I would throw that out there because number one, the trial's pretty cool.
It is.
And then the show is just, you got to watch the show. I'm kind of in love with the show. Then something else like entertainment-wise happened.
What's that?
Everybody heard about those the missing years, John and Stacey, the missing years. It's also referred to as Skyrim. We were on top of the world, and then that damn game came out.
Right.
And
then nobody saw us for like a year.
Oh no, we completely got lost. I remember Stacey sending me like, you know, mommy daddy text. Like it'd be hashtag mommy daddy time on text with Skyrim themes. I remember her sending me, I'd be at work, and she'd send me like these like, what a dirty little maid she was, and how she was gonna, you know, like she was Nordic this or Nordic that, and yeah, good stuff. But we would have so much fun. We got so into the game, but we never, you know, we started to play the game before that a few times, and I don't care if there is one of the guys on here that's like,
Oh, you haven't played it since the first game?
And no, jackass, I haven't. We played Skyrim, we loved it, and then we went backwards. Okay, so then you couldn't go backwards compatibility. It's a thing. So I apologize if you guys don't know, but with your Xbox One, you can play old Xbox 360 games with some games that are backwards compatible. Well, now they've freaking enhanced the game that came before Skyrim. We found out from E3 there's a new, finally they've announced the new Skyrim. So this is us just announcing that the show's over. It's been fun. We'll talk to you guys later.
Yeah,
No, but we are going to have our retro gaming night.
Yes.
Which is couples that retro game together stay together.
I think so.
I think it's a really good thing. So pretty excited about it. Now, I talked about Allagash. Very crazy day.
Yes.
Now this was on the vacation. We decided to go. You guys, if you've never been to Maine, you don't realize how big Maine really is. Okay? You can be in central Maine, as I am, and still drive 5 hours north easily. And it's crazy.
Yes.
Maine's huge, gigantic.
Yes.
So anyway, we went to go see the location at Eagle Lake that the Allagash abductions happened in the 70s.
Yes.
And we wanted to go there, feel the energy, take some readings, do some EVP. I have not went through the recordings yet, but we did go up there, and the whole day was weird. It was a very weird day. The whole day started out strange, and it was kind of like we had a weird day yesterday too. We were going to go to Salem yesterday, and we had completely planned on doing it. I was actually going to take Stacey to a gallery to a reading because, hey, doing a seance. It was a seance. Doing a seance in Salem. It's cool. You did a seance in Salem, right? But we both woke up and we had this weird feeling. It was like. And we didn't want to say it. We didn't want to ruin the day for each other. And that's what's really cool about being together as long as we have. Because it was like you could see it in her eyes. She could see it in my eyes. It was like, but we were both ready. And we didn't want to be the one.
We got up and got ready. And we were ready to even walk out the door. And then we were kind of like, we probably shouldn't go.
Yeah, let's just not go because we feel weird about it. But so backtrack a few days to the Allagash deal. Okay. So the actual area up there is the Eagle Lake area. And, if you look on a map, you can easily find this. But you go up, Route 1 is the trip we like to go. And then we come down Route 11. Not to get too far into this, but, there's a lot of UFO type sightings up near Mount Katahdin. And Mount Katahdin is this beautiful scenic. If you're on our Instagram, Hot John and Stacey Dam, you'll see these pictures from the day. Okay, and you can even go with the time of what I'm about to tell you with the pictures. So we ended up being within 40, 50 miles of a very odd occurrence. Number one odd occurrence was the day was supposed to be 85, 90 degrees, completely sunny, not a cloud in the sky. This is why we picked to do this excursion on this day, because we were going to go basically squatching and we were going to go UFO hunting. Okay. So we did this, and then all of a sudden there was this alert come over my phone. It was like, look, the Weather Channel was like, holy crap, it was one of those alerts.
Right.
It was like high winds. It was like hail, like
severe thunderstorms,
quarter-inch hail. And you don't get that stuff here.
Yeah.
You just don't get that stuff. It just doesn't happen. We really don't have severe thunderstorms very much because it usually doesn't get above 80, but anyway, it was happening and it was out of nowhere. And we were like, okay, maybe we can use the weather here, the map, the radar, and miss it a little bit. Maybe slow down and let it pass. It's supposed to be sunny after that. So we stopped off to the scenic overlook, and everything felt really strange, man. It just did. Everything felt strange. I even remember asking Stacey, like, are you all right? When we were stopped at this place. And what's really strange about that is right when I asked her that was the exact time that there was an earthquake in Maine. And it was really strange. Everything was weird. It felt like that dream-like feeling at the time. And I remember this. We didn't really talk about it, but it was that feeling, that weird feeling in your stomach. And so there's not earthquakes in Maine as a rule. There are earthquakes in Maine, but just not as a normal thing.
Right.
So in Brownville, Maine, which we were about 40 miles from there, a 2.1 magnitude tremor was recorded around 2 p.m. near Brownville. The exact location was Schoodic Lake, and several minor earthquakes have been recorded in Maine since mid-January. Another small earthquake was recorded between Dover Foxtrot in May. Blah blah blah. It's not a strong earthquake, but it is an earthquake.
Right. Like, it's not one that you're going to stand there and go, oh my God, there's an earthquake.
Right.
But it did happen, and it's very weird that it happened right close to where we were.
Yeah, and in conjunction with the fact that we went through with it, we went to the site of the Allagash abductions, to the UFO sighting. Then we had some encounters with moose after all this time up here. We'd only had like the one encounter.
Right.
And we encountered 2 moose very close up.
And I'd just like to say, it's still, even after living here for years, it still amazes me when you're driving along up in northern Maine, how thick the woods are. Like, you can be driving and you can look over into the trees and it's so black in there. Like, you can't see anything in the woods. It's just crazy.
Yeah.
The thickness of how dense it is.
It is, and we love it because the difference in the South is there's a lot of underbrush in the South, and you don't really want to walk through the woods. And up here, there's not poisonous snakes, there's not poisonous spiders, it's so cool. I mean, there's bears and
there's ticks and stuff,
giant moose, but
right.
You can usually see through the woods pretty well. But it, like Stacey said, it's so dark. It's just black, like midnight. Very thick, and so many things could just hide easily. And even when you're looking in there, it's because we go looking for what you think we're looking for, and when we go in there, your eyes play tricks on you. Sometimes it even looks like you're seeing something, and then you see a 7-foot moose. So some crazy stuff happened. We did end up later that evening having an encounter on Route 11 where we saw something. We can't identify what it was, but we can tell you that it didn't have lights that flashed. It was moving in an erratic fashion. It was stopping and going. And I don't know of any aircrafts that do that.
No, it was really weird.
It was not a drone. There was no sound. It was very high.
Yes.
But there was no blinking lights that most planes, I think, have to have. Not an aviation expert, but
right.
It was just looks like a star that was moving and then stopping and then moving and stopping.
Yeah, it was very strange.
So, mission accomplished, basically, in my opinion on that. It was pretty neat, man. I mean, it was strange though. And speaking of strange, I wanted to talk about something because Cody sent us a story.
Yes, a news story.
Yeah, and I thought it was neat because of some of the things that's been happening with numerology. Obviously, back in the Haunted South days, which you can listen to those shows if you're one of our patrons. But back in the Haunted South days, we had Marie D. Jones on a couple of times, who had like the time prompt phenomena book 1111.
Right.
I still see 111 or 1111 daily, and I mean, it doesn't matter. I could not look at the clock for hours. I decide to look at the clock. It's 11:11 or it's 1:11. Very, very weird. It used to happen to me with threes, but I thought this story is kind of strange. And one reason I think it's strange is because also this morning I had a weird dream about 3 does, and the number is significant, I think. But there was maps on the floor. There was 3 does. They were playing. They were
oddly colored.
They had the spots and reddish, and so I don't know what was going on with that. I'm sure that was very important. It's because my animal dreams normally are, but this story is kind of interesting.
Yes, well, he sent us a story, and it's about the death of Vinnie Paul.
Yeah,
and which is very sad. And the interesting part of the story, the reason that he thought it would be interesting for us, is because this particular story is talking about his memorial service that actually happened on July 1st, and it was held at 3:33 p.m.
Right.
The memorial was. And the reason for that is because he talked about in an interview, I think back in 2006, about his brother, Dimebag, about how he would always see that his number was 3. And so after that, after his brother passed away, he would always see 3:33 on the clock. And so that was the time prompt phenomenon that was happening to him. Like he'd be just doing something, not even paying attention to the clock, and then he would just look over for no reason, and it would be 3:33, which we know very well.
Oh yeah.
About that happening. So it was really interesting. So since he had talked about that a lot, and it was really important to him, they decided to do his memorial at 3:33 because they consider that what do they call it, dime time, because of Dimebag and his number 3. So I don't know, I thought it was a really cool story. I'll actually link to this. There's a lot of cool pictures here
and for any Pantera fans, that's very neat. And you know what, I'm gonna tell them a story they've never heard now.
Okay.
Even when we told this story, we've never told it.
Okay.
So when I did the stupid spell that I did in 1997 that brought on all the world of hurt for us, it was actually to try and conjure, or like when I was invoking, I was trying to make contact with one of my icon legend fanboy things, Andrew Wood, the former lead singer of Mother Love Bone and Malfunction. Okay.
Boy, that's obscure.
Oh yeah. So Landrew, as the fans would call him, or he called himself in some of the Malfunction songs, you don't understand how big of an Andy Wood fan I am. So I've never talked about that on the show.
No.
So Andrew would talk about Love Rock and 333 and all this stuff. So 333 was his big thing. If you go back and listen to the Malfunction stuff or the Mother Love Bone stuff, you'll find a lot of 333. You'll find a lot of Love Rock. So yeah, man, I was all into that, and everything that came from Seattle after that, of course, was just it was almost like a religion for me. It was so, I was so into it, and still am to this day. But I actually tried contacting Andy, and the weird thing about that is all our clocks would go to 333. We've never talked about this.
No, well, that's when that whole 333 thing started.
Yeah.
Was after that, and then we would start seeing the 333 everywhere, and that was the first time prompt phenomenon problem that we had.
Yeah.
And just later on, it started switching to the 1111 and 111, which I think is a different significance.
Yes.
I'm sure for us.
It's got something to do with something. We don't know what it is yet. I could tell you that it was going on a little bit when we did the Marie D. Jones stuff. And that was why it really drew us to her, because she had written that book and blah blah blah, and it was like, oh my God, this has been a thing for us. And then we found out it was a thing for many people, and it's a strange phenomenon. They have a lot of reasons they want to explain why it happens, but then there's my middle finger currently going up, telling them that you can't explain everything. And this is one of those things you can't explain. Because it happens very strangely. And now for us, like I said, for me, it's 111 and 1111. So just a cool story, and it really kind of fits in with everything.
Yeah. Well, one thing I'll point out about the number, with us, it's not even just a time prompt. A lot of the ones come up in our, like first house we bought was 111.
Yeah.
The house we live in now was 11. It pops up everywhere.
Oh yeah.
In not just the clock. It's a weird thing.
Absolutely. It's kind of as weird as, ParanormalSideshow.com. That's your address to find out everything time prompt. Facebook.com/Paranormal Sideshow. There's all kinds of time prompt going on. On the Twitter, it's at Sideshow97. It should have been Sideshow111, but we didn't think about it. On Instagram, Hot111Damn. It's John and Stacey Edwards. YouTube.com. You better search for Paranormal Sideshow, because there's all kinds of cool stuff, especially if you get the premium version. You'll see me naked. You gotta look really hard. I mean, it's on there somewhere. It's on one of the videos. You have to like and watch every single video. And as soon as you get through every single one of them, like our Facebook, follow us on Twitter, and you watch all that, then it happens, and then you're not going to really let us know, are you? I mean, are you? So, no, it's pretty cool. And, of course, Patreon.
Yes.
Patreon.com. It's only one Patreon.com, by the way, /Paranormal Sideshow. Thank you so much to our patrons. It really helps us. It helps us help you. It helps us do the show. It helps us
try to bring you more, better, bigger content more often. That's the goal. That's the goal of what we're trying to do, and we really appreciate you. We appreciate you even if you don't. Really do appreciate everybody that's donated on there, and we have some cool levels and some cool things you can get when you do pick a level. Everything from tarot cards to t-shirts, and we got a lot of new stuff we're working on too, because we got some really good news a couple weeks ago, and there's going to be something really cool we're going to be able to put on there for another level, because something awesome happened for the Paranormal Sideshow. Very excited about everything that's going on. This is the year of the Sideshow, so jump on, get your ticket, get on this train, and let's take it together to Rock Vegas and have a good time tonight. I will say, on our way to Rock Vegas, I need you to go ahead and put your earphones in and listen to your phone and listen to this podcast, which, if you weren't listening to the podcast but you heard me say that, it's very creepy. And please don't ever contact me again. But if you're listening to the podcast, take a second and subscribe, and please leave a review, and just however you listen. I don't know how you're listening, but however you listen, subscribe on that bad boy. It helps us out, helps the show out, and leave a good review, even if it just says "rock on, you sexy beast." However you want to do it, that's like the gimme. That should be the default. Rock on, you sexy beast, with the rock on hand, and which is not like the shocker hand. It's the other one. But just saying, we love you all. Thank you so much. And don't forget to go to paranormalsideshow.com, follow along with the show, watch Stacey's news, look at it as we talk about it. So she puts a lot of hard work into it, and it's fun to do. I do it sometimes too when I'm alone and nobody's around, just to have fun with myself. So I think it's almost time. I see dead people and the paranormal news.
All right, let's get to the news. Okay, so let's start with an update to a story that we've been talking about for several different times on the shows. This is about the embassy workers that have been getting ill in Cuba and China.
And they've been hearing noises and crazy stuff.
and having the brain trauma.
Brain damage.
Yeah, all that. So this story is about something that happened recently when President Trump was heading to Singapore for the summit meeting with Kim Jong-un from North Korea. And so a State Department diplomatic security agent who was part of the advanced team, he reported hearing some unusual sounds that he thought was similar to what was happening in Cuba and China.
Right.
And so as a precaution, they took him and they immediately sent him for medical screening. It's like a new U.S. government protocol that they established to kind of combat this whole, people getting ill. And so he went through a battery of tests and they got him out of there. And it turns out that it was a false alarm, that there was nothing going on. He was not ill. Yeah. But it just, underscores how seriously the government's taking this particular threat.
That's really bananas. I mean, that it's got that far, because like you said, I mean, that really tells you, okay, this is serious. They're taking this serious. And we know it's serious, but a lot of times you don't hear about it ever again.
Right.
I thought after it happened in Cuba, we would never hear about it again, because it sounded like a sonic weapon of some kind. Then when it happened in China, I'm like, holy cow, this is crazy. And how many Americans has it affected?
Well, as of the last time we talked about this, and right now, I believe there are 26 medically confirmed cases. Most of those are from Cuba, and then there's a few from China. And so this is just, and this one was not a medically confirmed case, but it was when the president was actually flying to Singapore. So you can imagine the chaos it caused. Yeah. They were trying to make sure everything was okay and nobody was getting hurt.
I wonder what kind of conditions he was having, because, some of these things is hearing voices and scratches and, of course, the ringing, I think, and getting sick and stuff. So
well, one thing that I thought about this particular case is, he mentioned it as soon as it happened, where I believe all of the other people, it it went on for a period of time where they had mentioned it, but they didn't really think it was anything. So, I mean, could it be a situation where you need prolonged exposure before you become medically ill? You know, that sort of thing. But I think it's interesting that they're stepping up their, you know, protocol for that situation.
Yeah, all I can see is like the CNN reporter down there with like some kind of weird thing, you know, like, oh yeah, how about this?
Well, it's crazy. They still don't have any idea about what's causing it. And, you know, of course, America believes that it's, you know, some kind of attack, that it's some sort of attack on our people because it's just happening to our people. Yeah. You know, so.
I mean, if it was happening to like, you know, a couple of Venezuelans, you know, I mean, and if somebody really wants to succeed with this, you should always throw in a couple of Venezuelans. I mean, it should be like, all right, so here's what we're going to do, comrade. We're going to attack 14 Americans and throw in that Venezuelan. He's right down
throw him off the track.
He's right down the street. They'll never think it's us at that point. It's a random thing. We're not targeting Americans, you know? And then try to pick up some of that wood oil.
Wow, that's a throwback, isn't it?
Oh, it is. It is. If you captured that joke, if you got that joke, you are an avid listener and should probably win a prize. I tell you what, if you got that joke, I'm not going to tell you about it. If you got that joke, drop me a message. Let me know, and I'll keep your name. And you're going to be in for a small treat. So,
all right. Well, let's move on. That is just an ongoing situation. We'll just have to keep up with it. All right. So let's move on to this next story, and it's kind of an update about the interstellar object. And this is a story about how they've done this study. And it was published recently in the journal Nature. And it indicates that the interstellar visitor they've decided is actually a comet.
Wait a second. They said it wasn't a comet.
They did say it wasn't a comet and that it was an asteroid. But now they've decided, no, it's a comet. So what's happened is they've had these new observations. They've done an analysis of these new observations that said that the comet / asteroid, whatever, the object's trajectory couldn't be explained by the gravitational forces exerted on it by the sun and the planets.
Because it didn't slow down.
Right. It didn't slow down as fast as it should have.
Right.
So they concluded, this is my favorite part, they concluded that the unexpected motion had to be caused by the spewing out of small quantities of gaseous materials from its surface. And this, quote, outgassing, which is commonly seen in comets, was too small to be visible, but significant enough to affect the trajectory.
No.
So therefore, it's a comet.
No. Listen, no. That's just stupid.
Well, not everybody agrees with this assessment. In fact,
the glove don't fit. You must have quit. It just doesn't always work that way.
There's an astronomer at the University of Toronto in Scarborough. His name is Alan Jackson.
Oh, way down here on the Chattahoochee?
Yeah. Well, in Toronto. He told in an email that if it was a comet, it must be one that lost a lot of its ice before leaving its home star system, therefore essentially being an asteroid, and that it was really blurred because it kind of was in between the two, and it wasn't a good enough classification to say whether it was one or the other.
I wonder what happens when two really high-level scientists get in a fight about something like this.
I don't know.
Wouldn't you like to be in the room? Do you think that they would still use their devices to argue about it?
Like they have the calculators and they're like...
just like, well, looks here, like, yeah, you didn't carry the two, Johnson. Did you see that, Mom? He didn't carry the two.
Possibly.
That's right, Petey.
Possibly. Well, the whole point is, I think this is kind of funny because...
Petey went to school early. That's why his mom's there.
Oh, I see.
Because he's really smart.
I see. But he's like 12.
He's like 12, yeah. He's a super scientist. They keep trying to find him younger, to find ones that won't be baffled.
Right.
And then they do things like argue over something that's obviously a spacecraft.
Right. Well, I think it's funny that they're basing all their conclusions on something that they can't really see. They're just saying, well, it has to be there.
Yeah, it's very definite for science, isn't it?
It's very strange.
Why do they always do that? And then they have to change. See, if they wouldn't talk in definites,
right?
If they would just be like, we're not really sure, but our very expensive education tells us it's just like my accent. It's not really British. And it's not really Irish or Australian, but it's something weird. But my really expensive education tells me that it could possibly be a rock from somewhere that didn't slow down like it's supposed to. Mm-hmm. So it means that it's not what we would normally see. So that means it's not a comet because it didn't slow down like it should have. It didn't really go by the rules of gravity. Almost like it was under some kind of intelligent, force, right?
Right.
This is just me using my highly educated science voice trying to figure this out.
Right.
I'm trying to rule out things. Mm-hmm. Okay. Mm-hmm. So if it was following gravity of these planets, that it should have to follow if it's slingshotting around them, which is what they thought was happening. Mm-hmm. It should follow the same rules as the other items that we know that we have seen happen, okay, and they have slowed down. This didn't.
Right.
This just was like, woohoo, it's like their butts pressed up in the window as it goes by. I don't know. I still, for some reason, especially the shape of it too. The shape of it was odd because space should have made it round.
Right.
Or something. It's very weird.
Everything about it was really strange.
And we're, the biggest part, it's an interstellar object. That's happened.
Never.
Yeah.
And now it's, too far away to study.
Well, of course it is.
It's leaving our solar system now, and it's too far away to get any more readings on it. So, I guess this is just going to be one of those arguments that goes on forever.
It reminds me of when I was in ninth grade. This girl, Chrissy, that went to my high school, she was the head cheerleader, and all the boys were just in love with her. And you just had to be like, if she was the head cheerleader, you had to be in love with her.
Right. Society demands it.
I was more in love with this other one, like the brunette. There was the blonde and the brunette, her friend Billy Sue. I remember all this very, very, very well. It'd be very awkward if they listened to the show.
Right.
But anyway, I remember standing with a bunch of guys around one of my friend's Mustangs, and we were looking at the engine because that's what guys do. And we were on the other side of the parking lot. It was a really windy day, and we all just happened to be looking at Chrissy as she was going toward her car. She was wearing a white miniskirt,
right,
and it blew up. And half of us were determined that she wasn't wearing panties, and the other half of us was determined that she was. Okay? But we couldn't go in for a deeper look.
Well, right. You couldn't just go up to her and ask.
Right. She was gone. I'm saying she got in her car and left. So we had to determine on the evidence that was given whether or not that was panties or not panties. And for some reason, that just brought that whole thing back to me.
You lived in a high school teen movie, didn't you?
I think I really did. Now that I see other people so yeah, that is kind of strange, huh? Yeah.
I think you did. Okay, so let's move on to this next update.
Okay.
And this is the one about the mysterious booms in Pennsylvania, the ones in Bucks County where the FBI was there investigating, and they've actually made an arrest.
They arrested a boom?
No. Oh. They arrested a man named David Sermon Jr., and he is being charged.
Be important that they give him a middle name on the news.
No, that's not a middle name, sweetie. It's David Sermon
Jr.
Yes. He's just a younger version.
Making sure he's paying attention.
Yeah, okay.
All right.
So he's being charged with possession of weapons of mass destruction. There has to be a senior if there's a junior, right?
Not necessarily. I think we should name a child and just name it something junior that has nothing to do with anything.
Well, if we're going to do that, let's just name one like the 4th or something. Make him sound really important.
Yeah.
Like give him a name and call him like
the 16th. The 16th. Just something crazy. Just something.
So that his whole life they can be like, wow, you're the 16th. No, not really.
But something great like Bob the 16th. Isn't that great? At the very best, the kid's going to be a comedian or a boxer. Okay? Because he's either going to deal with it one way or the other.
Right.
I would do it. Are you in? I'm in.
Sure.
Let's go adopt like an underfortunate. Let's go. What? What? Ain't that what they call them?
Underprivileged.
Oh, underprivileged.
I don't know what unfortunate is. This is really bad luck. Some kid with really bad luck.
I always wanted to adopt a bunch of kids, and I don't guess it would be good if I go ask for the unfortunate ones. Okay, get back on the.
All right, let's get back on track. Anyway.
Okay, this is an important story. Damn it.
So David Sermon II, he's being charged with possession of weapons of mass destruction.
Holy crap.
Now, so this went from...
Couldn't you not start it out with that?
Well, I tried, but I couldn't get
God.
past the name. So this started out, I believe, thinking that there was like some kids playing pranks and figuring out how to blow stuff up, to this man being arrested. Now, he owned a business. It was called the Consolidated Chemical and Solvent Company. He owned that. So the authorities got search warrants for his company and for his home, which is on Spinnerstown Road. And besides other bombs they found and chemicals, they uncovered strange drawings and pictures. And some of them had hate symbols, and others were showing him and his girlfriend driving away from a bombing scene. Like they were like drawings and stuff. So he's obviously been arrested. They're taking it very seriously, and they don't know what the motive was, and they're actually warning that there could be more planted bombs out there. Like they have no idea what this guy's been doing.
Isn't that crazy? That's
yeah.
That's wild.
So this went from being a mysterious boom story, which people were hearing and reporting on because that's something that people have been reporting on.
Right.
To being, kids goofing off, to being this company owner in the community actually having bombs and building bombs in his home and in his business. So I don't know. It's very crazy.
Was the pictures of him and his girlfriend driving away from the bomb, was that like on the walls, or was it?
It doesn't really say. They just said that they found them.
Was it like rat rod looking pictures, or was it like?
It doesn't say.
I was wondering.
It just says strange drawings and pictures.
I just like pictured it. Like the old rat rods, like where he would like be in this little car and like he had these big muscles and stuff, and she'd be. Never mind.
I have no idea. I think it's funny they're saying there's pictures of him and his girlfriend driving away from a bombing scene. I'm wondering if they were like trying to get a picture while the bomb was exploding, like in a movie.
If they ever found anything on me and they wanted to come investigate, do you know how big of a book they would throw at me if they went through my notebooks? I mean, do you realize the size? If they ever just busted our house and they look at our like shelves and stuff, and they come in and it'd be like, I don't know why they have all this stuff. What is in the jars?
What are these weird things? I don't know.
So what's
are those
that?
Claws? What is that?
What is that for? Yeah. Oh.
Well, he's actually being held on a $750,000 bond, and
That's it? Weapons of mass destruction, $750,000. I thought it'd be like no bond.
He actually made no comments. They took him into the court for his arraignment, and he didn't make any comments, didn't speak, nothing, didn't say anything. So it's kind of, this is just a recent development, so ongoing, have to watch.
He might have the detonator in his mouth.
He's holding on to that cyanide capsule.
That's crazy.
So definitely crazy. Talk about escalating. That escalated quickly.
What a weird story, because we followed it from the first, and we kept updating it because we fell into the mysterious booms thing. So it's very strange where that one ended up.
I think it's kind of getting out of our jurisdiction now.
Yeah, well, maybe they'll start taking these more serious.
Yeah. Could be. All right, well, let's move on. So here's a cool event that's coming up this month, and this is about the longest total lunar eclipse of the century is going to happen.
That doesn't sound good at all.
On July 27th. Well, the longest total lunar eclipse is only like an hour and 45 minutes.
Yeah.
That's long for a lunar eclipse. But it's going to happen on July 27th.
Right. That's a Friday night.
It is. The only problem is those of us in the United States are not going to be able to enjoy it this time.
What about our Argentinian friends?
Well, the eclipse will mainly be visible in Europe, Africa, Asia, Australia, as well as some parts of South America.
Okay.
So it's pretty cool. It's the longest one that they've had in the century. They've had others that have been kind of close, but this one's going to be the longest one. It's actually really cool. I think you'll probably be able to see it online. People usually stream that kind of thing. But July 27th. And
well, there's a big chunk of our listeners that falls under. So that's really cool.
does.
You guys are gonna be able to see it.
And it said that
Or not see it.
the moon will turn a red or ruddy brown color during the eclipse.
Does it really say ruddy brown?
Ruddy brown color. It's the
Oh,
blood
that was
moon
written by an
eclipse.
Englishman.
Well, when I was looking at this story, it was kind of interesting because we saw a story on TV somewhere where someone was talking about how the planets were all doing a strange alignment this month, where they're all going to be on the same side of the sun.
Yeah.
And so I was looking
They're cleaning
into
the
that.
other side.
Yes, they're shooing them all out for, they had to found some bugs. They have to bomb it over there. I don't know. So they were, I was looking into that, and I saw some people asking about if the planets ever lined up. You know how you see those pictures of like the sun and then the planets all in this neat little line? So that doesn't ever actually happen, but the closest they're going to get is like a long time from now, like 400 years from now, they'll all be as close to lining up as is possible.
It happened in Thundar the Barbarian.
Possibly, yes. I think that's a different universe, though.
Okay.
But this month, they're actually all going to be on the same side of the sun, which is kind of a cool planetary alignment sort of thing. But I also found out that right now there are 5 planets in retrograde at the same time.
Oh my God, that explains some weird stuff.
One of them's not Mercury, though.
Yeah, Mercury's the only one I really notice.
Yeah.
People can say what they want about the other ones. The only one I ever really notice, I can honestly tell you when Mercury's in retrograde without having to read it.
It is going to happen at the end of this month, like the end of this month into August. But right now it's like Mars, Jupiter, Saturn, Neptune, and Pluto are all in retrograde. Jupiter's about done, but then after Jupiter's out, Mercury's going to kick in, and still going to be 5 in retrograde with Mercury.
Yeah, Mercury really screws things up.
Yeah, it does. It does. So for any of those astrology people,
yes,
it's definitely something to look up. It does, all those retrograde planets mean something, and I think it does mean something when all the planets are on the same side of the sun. It's an unusual alignment. It doesn't happen that often. So very cool. All right. Well, so on the space and planet theme,
right,
this is kind of an interesting story that I happened to come across, and it's about Enceladus.
Oh, incestuous, yes.
Saturn's moon.
Yes.
And this is a little story about how Saturn's moon is just a step closer to possibly having life on it. This is one of the two that they talk about.
The ones that they always point to of having life.
All the time. That's right. So what's happened is scientists have found complex carbon-based molecules in the waters of Enceladus, which is very
that's good.
interesting.
Yeah.
Yes. And it says they're thought to have formed in reactions between water and warm rock. It's not really a sign of life, but it's one of the things that you need.
Right. Absolutely.
So, and in this particular article, it does go through everything, like what you have to possibly have life. And, you need liquid water, which it has, energy, organics, compounds containing carbon, which they've now found. And then you need particular elements like carbon, hydrogen, nitrogen, oxygen, phosphorus, and sulfur.
Right.
So basically on Enceladus, they have found everything except the phosphorus and sulfur. And I don't know if it's because they haven't looked for that or if they just haven't possibly measured
Well,
it.
I mean, they've got a lot to look through still.
Right. I mean, it's not someplace they can just jump over to really quickly.
No.
But the fact that it has all those other things makes it very, very possible that they could find some kind of actual life there.
It could be alive.
It could be. So
the
the doctor that they talked to said that the next logical step is to go back there soon with a dedicated payload to see if there is some kind of life on Enceladus. And they've been saying it, for months now. This one and Europa are the two likely candidates.
They've been up there once, but the payload wasn't very dedicated. They're just like,
it's kind of a slacker payload.
They're just like, are we done yet? Come on, payload. Will you please go look for life? I guess. Can I just look around the vehicle and get back in?
Well, let's talk about Mars for a second. So this is a different story.
I always hear salt and pepper when you tell me stuff like that. Like let's talk about sex, baby. Let's talk about you and me. You're always like, let's talk about Mars, baby. I don't know. Just go ahead.
Your mind just works strange.
I'm just now noticing that.
So this is about the dust
Should
storm.
live here.
I do live here.
No, in my head.
Oh, yeah. No, I don't want to live in your head.
It's like there's things. You remember the Inside Out movie? Mm-hmm. Like I can actually feel the little people inside of my brain staring out the eyeballs.
I think you have two rages, though.
Yeah.
like twins.
Yeah, and they're gay. It's a very odd time for rage. It's like, I don't know. Oh, what am I mad about? But
This story is about a dust storm on Mars, and it's a planet encircling dust event. It's a huge dust storm.
It's so crazy, guys. Just envision this as she talks about it.
Yes. So give me some sound effects. All right, so this dust storm started in early June, and it actually put the Opportunity rover to sleep because the Opportunity rover works on solar power to keep its battery charged.
Oh, I thought maybe the wind was like so soothing to it. It was kind of like they'd heard this
like
for a second.
Noise.
Yeah, it's like, damn it, rover, wake up! Oh, just a minute. I'm just resting my eyes.
Well, they're having trouble because they can't use the Opportunity rover now, but they actually can see some of the dust storm now that it's intensified to this planet encircling dust event from the Curiosity rover, which is in the Gale crater, because we just talked about the announcement where, the Curiosity rovers discovered all the amazing things on Mars from the NASA announcement. It's a little odd timing that now there's this huge dust storm that's covering everything up on Mars.
Yeah, isn't that weird?
Isn't after they found all this amazing stuff. It's a little strange, but they're just their plan is just basically every day to check the Opportunity rover, see if they can get it to turn on at least for even a second to try and keep its batteries charged a little bit until the dust storm passes. And the Curiosity rover doesn't have that problem because it runs on a nuclear powered battery. Right. So it doesn't rely on the solar power. But it's a very crazy dust storm. Mars is actually going to be as close to Earth as it gets. Mm-hmm. And normally they use that time to look at the surface of Mars and see to hurl insults, things like that. Yeah. And, that's going to be difficult this time because of all the dust. Yeah. So very crazy.
It's really insane. Okay, listen. Mm-hmm. Mars is roughly half the size of Earth, which is huge. Okay, Earth's pretty big. Last time I checked, and the round Earth I'm talking about,
right?
But it's pretty giant, and so it's half the size of Earth, and the dust storm is over the entire planet.
Yeah, it's crazy.
That is just bizarre.
Yeah, it says that sometimes the clouds reach up to 40 miles in the air.
That's so cool.
Yeah, isn't that crazy?
Yeah, it really is weird, but it does seem like an artificial thing so they can move stuff around.
It is really strange, I think.
I think it is too. I think
and I think the timing of it's weird because of that whole thing that they just announced and everything.
Yeah, you're strange. Right. You're dead on with that, and I think that it's totally what it is. I think that it's too obvious not to be. So cool story, man.
Yeah, it is pretty crazy.
We need to keep up with that, guys. Though, keep up with it for yourselves too. Like the dust storm on Mars, I think that's a weird one. Yeah. Something about that one's got me.
Oh yeah, definitely strange. All right, so let's move on. So here's a pretty strange discovery, and this is about a sonar anomaly that has been discovered off the coast of North Carolina.
Yes.
So this story came out a few days ago where...
Let me do my big thing.
Okay.
So if you guys are like laying in bed and you're half asleep or whatever, or if you're driving and you're half asleep or whatever, I need you to pay attention. Mm-hmm. Okay, this is one of those. This is what I remember when we were going to do the noise, but we were afraid it would wreck people.
Right.
So instead of doing the noise, we're just telling you now. It's like the polite little beep. Do you remember those books? Like when it was time to turn to...
Oh, and go ding.
Yeah,
turn the page.
Turn the page. Yeah. So it's like that. I will need to get like one of those. I'm sure that's not copywritten. They can't demonetize us for the ding from children's books, right?
Probably not. No.
It's like ding. But yeah, this story. This story is one of my favorites in a while because it's just weird.
It is weird. All right, so a strange sonar anomaly had NOAA explorers diving off the coast of North Carolina on Wednesday. So NOAA is the National Oceanic and Atmospheric Administration.
Yeah.
And they weren't afraid...
As we've talked about before with my Jedi sword of my dad's NOAA weather radio, that if my dad is listening, I'm still apologize for using it as a lightsaber. But it was so cool. It was a little handheld blue thing, and I played with it daily, and it had the retractable antenna. And my family is very addicted to weather. Stacey knows this.
They are.
So to this day, they will look up the weather of Maine if it's a bad enough storm, and I will get calls at 4 a.m. or text messages or whatever, letting me know about the storms. And doesn't matter where
we'll
I'm
be
at.
over here in 3 feet of snow, and they'll call and be like, "It's gonna snow."
Yeah. Well, no, I mean, but to their credit, we have been in a house before with tornadoes where trees come through the top, and so I mean, there's been some crazy storms. I just wanted to once again give a shout out to the NOAA Weather Radio. I when I hear NOAA, I think everybody should know what that stands for, because every day of my freaking life, up until the time I met you, I would hear NOAA Weather Radio, and like the report,
right?
It'd be like at 6:13 there was a storm approaching, and they wouldn't just listen to it once; they would listen to it,
well, just in case it changed,
on a continuous loop,
right?
And I mean, it was like some weird kind of, it was like a weird kind of torture. I don't know, but I could tell you, I could probably sit here and tell you everything they talk about. I'm surprised I was not a weatherman.
Really, that's true.
Seriously, but go ahead.
All right. So NOAA, after they found this anomaly, started putting out messages and, trumping up the suspense about the area, saying that it could be an archaeological site or a geological formation or otherwise. Yes. And they don't know, what otherwise meant. I know people are like, "Oh, it could be a UFO under the, under the ocean." So then the site was being called the Big Dipper Anomaly.
Yeah.
So what they did was they launched remotely operated vehicles in the area to go down and see what was down there. Yes, and they actually put it online where you could watch the things go through. And so experts actually believed that it could be a shipwreck,
right?
Because this particular area is known as the graveyard of the Atlantic for all the shipwrecks.
How did I live there my whole life and never hear it called that?
I don't know.
Sounds really cool though.
But there's a large number of ships that sunk in that region that range from like pirate ships, Civil War, World War II, just tons of stuff. So as they did the remote viewing under there, they actually did find out that it was a geological formation, and it was a lot of different rocks that were like laying down on top of each other. And there's some great pictures if you go on there. It's actually a really good discovery because every crevice of these rocks has some kind of life in it that is new or different than what they normally see. So
they're showing pictures of this. And they're not trying to hide. They're trying to hide the location still, though, right?
Yeah, no, they didn't tell where it was. The location is being kept confidential, but they did show the underwater camera going around the geological formation. So
it's not man-made.
Life. They're not saying that it's man-made. No. It's supposedly just a geological formation with a bunch of different biological communities and other things in the formation. And you can see what they recorded. Now, because the location's being kept confidential, who knows if what they're showing you is where they actually are.
Right. No, I got you.
You know what I mean? So, but it's an interesting story, and they did notch up the suspense a lot before they actually did the dive.
Yeah.
So now supposedly it's just...
Well, I mean, again,
this geological
everybody
formation.
has a Johnson on their team, right? That's going to make the people think these people are so stuffy and serious, just like the NASA people. But everybody has Johnson,
right?
And Johnson's sitting there, and they're like, "Johnson, yeah, let them know about what we're doing here. Let them know about how this tax dollars are being used." Oh, okay. And he's like, updating the website. He's like, it could be something else.
We have no idea.
Yeah, but damn it, Johnson. That's all I can say. And that's what always happens to us, right?
Right.
We always get really excited for something, and I don't know that one. I mean, they're finding life that they don't know about, and I still don't. I don't know. They were awful excited about that, and they know what they're looking at. You know what I mean? That's what's weird to me. That's like if I'm walking downstairs and I see somebody standing there, they're not there every day. So it's kind of weird, but because I know what my stairs look like.
Right.
You know what I'm saying? I'm going to get kind of excited.
Well, I do believe that right now they're actually mapping all of the ocean floors. That's a project that they're working on.
Right.
And they're trying to explore the oceans more for the reason that you said that we should explore the oceans, because we don't really know what's down there.
Yeah.
And they're really trying to do, there's a whole another article I'll link to about all this big project that they're doing where they're trying to map out all of the oceans.
I think if we do that, it'll tell us where water levels were. And, if we do find civilizations, it's not because I want to find Atlantis. It's because it would be good to know that this was underwater. This wasn't underwater. Remember the big continent they found? It was the largest continent. And that was like...
It was underwater.
Yeah, it was a story last year.
Yeah, I remember.
We've got a lot of listeners in Australia that I'm sure would remember that. I'm sure it's just as deadly underwater as it is top water. It's a bunch of freaking like a gang of Crips and blood sharks or something. But I don't know. It's just there's so many mysteries down there. There's so many places they can't see or can't get to.
It's very strange.
It's just like underneath the earth. There's so much still to find where we're at that I think that's where we need to be spending the majority of our time. There's nobody more into space than me.
Right.
But there's only so much we can do there. There's only so far we can go, and there's only so much we can explore.
It's a lot easier to get to the oceans than out in space.
I think that we should really be looking more what's been here already. Explain to me for real how this was built, because you can't. And it's not just the pyramids. There's things in all over the world. I could sit and spend hours. Like if everybody wants to take turns coming to my house, I could sit and spend probably 20, 30 hours one by one going over things that make no sense. Just on the way they were built, on how they would have got this, on how they would have carried it 40 years to, and yes, I said 40 years instead of 40 miles, because it just seems like that's what it would have took. They had nothing but hands, supposedly, and then we're supposed to believe that a lot of this stuff was built by morons,
right?
Because whenever you see like a depiction of them, or you hear about the hunter-gatherers and stuff, it's just like, oh, booby, oh, cow, and just like the bug on freaking Men in Black, right?
Right.
And just stupid. And they did it with their little copper tool,
Right.
No. And I'm not saying that it was freaking aliens, man. I'm just saying that I truly believe there was high super level technology that was on this planet, and not just once, but several times that we have built it up all the way, blown ourselves to hell, and done it again. And, it really, I think the evidence is there. Every year, every day, we find more and more things as we're able to map things new ways and all this stuff. And it just makes a lot more sense than, to have the level of technology we have. A lot of things I see, they find evidence that we built on top things that we found. Like, even if it's 10,000 years old, it looks like the morons actually did find these things and go, whoa, and they built on top of that. And because they found it themselves.
Yeah. Like, look at this amazing structure. You know what it needs?
Yeah. Well,
an extra wall.
I go back to things, when people question anything, right? When people are just like, oh no, there's no way that could be true. He's on one of his things again. I go back to a couple hundred years ago, and somebody that maybe brought up dinosaurs. Again, I have to talk about, go watch Jurassic World. Go see that movie, okay? I went to go see it. Go see that movie. And think about the fact that those big plant eaters used to walk right where you're at right now. And the whole world was ruled by dinosaurs for millions of freaking years. And then tell me what is possible and what isn't possible, because that, my friends, is freaking bizarre. But it happened, okay? And it just none of it makes sense. Like, it really doesn't make sense. Do you think it makes sense?
No, not really.
And it just, none of it makes sense, even biblically. Okay, even if you're going to go by the Bible, dinosaurs don't make sense in that story, because it just doesn't. You would think that was a slight omission. Like maybe God would have thought, maybe I should put the fact that dinosaurs were here way longer than humans were here, because by the time they find it, they're going to kind of wonder, and we'll really be able to tell who's going to have faith and who's not. There's limited space in heaven. Let's just throw a couple of T-Rexes in there and, some things like that. And if they believe, then they've got it, man. They've got it. You know what I'm saying, though?
Right.
It's crazy. Not the Bible. I'm saying it's crazy about things like some of these structures we found, the dinosaurs we found, and I think there's a lot more to find in the oceans. And we're starting to get technology now to go down, and as long as the Smithsonian's not involved, we'll find out something about it.
Well, hopefully they start finding some cool stuff. I think they're going to find all kinds of things we've never heard of. So, all right, well, let's move on to this next story. And this is a discovery of sorts. And this is a story about an old friend of yours, Joshua P. Warren.
Oh, Joshua P. Warren, alone in a haunted house.
So this is a story where he has claimed that he's the first person to ever discover a time warp, and that he found it on the outskirts of Las Vegas.
Wow.
So what he's done is that he's
definitely been through one before.
He's measured multiple places between Las Vegas and Area 51. Oh, yeah. That's the place that he's measuring.
Right.
And he's using a piece of technology called the DT meter, which stands for differential time rate meter. And supposedly it was recently invented by a Silicon Valley engineer named Ron Heath. Okay, so you use it, has a sensor on the end, and it sends back a signal. And the signal is supposed to always travel at the same rate of time at any particular place. And so the only way that it could change is if something major happened, like a black hole approached the Earth or something crazy that's not supposed to happen. So at this one particular spot on June 18th, he said he actually measured for the first and only time itself slowing down for like 20 microseconds.
Right.
So he said that shouldn't happen unless there was some kind of unknown technology being tested nearby that would influence the environment, or if there are naturally places around planet Earth that actually kind of flicker or warp a little bit. But it's the only time he's ever found it, and
right.
It's the only time he's actually found this one particular time blip.
Yeah.
So he thinks it's really interesting, and he said that the research is just beginning, that he's going to keep measuring to see if he can find other places or find a connection to anything that could be going on to cause it.
That's pretty crazy. I mean, in fact, it's very crazy just to think about it. And, we've been through so many weird anomalies, so many slips, so many times we're driving on a road, and we end up being like, where are we at? I mean, think about how many times it's happened to us. Some of those trips we've had just where we're like, oh God. And people we've talked to also have been through many of these weird anomalies, like you're in another time. And we've also speculated on some paranormal activity being time slips.
Right. And I think what we experienced, though, was pretty significant, where what he's picked up is just very minor.
Yeah.
But he says that now the big question at this point is not if it's happening, because obviously he's found that it did, but what's causing it. And and the area that he's in is kind of interesting because he's out there where a lot of UFO activity. But I think he's kind of on track if he's thinking that there's some kind of technology being tested or anything like that could be causing that sort of thing.
I'd like to do that same technology near CERN.
Yeah, that'd be crazy.
Yeah.
That'd be crazy. But I guess he's just going to stick to, the area around Las Vegas and continue to, check different areas to see if he can catch the anomaly again. It's very interesting.
I'll tell you, man, he's always on to something.
Yeah.
Joshua's actually from down where we're from and very close. He's from Asheville. And, he's always on the forefront of something, looking at some kind of technology, some kind of experiment or something. He's been doing it for years, man. He's he's an OG. And so good on him. I love it because it's right down that weird route that we like to travel,
Right.
And but yeah, we've experienced a lot of strange time anomalies and just things that don't make sense, buddy, that just you're not in the right place. You're in something weird and things like you're on a road and all of a sudden you don't know where the hell you're at, even though you're going the way you always went.
Right. Or sometimes we get places faster than we think we should have got there.
Quite a bit faster.
Like we're like, well, how can we be here already?
Yeah. We've had a lot of strange stuff happen, but like I told somebody a few weeks ago, we're always looking for stuff, you know.
True. We pay attention to that.
Yeah.
I bet it happens a lot of times. People don't even
I'm sure.
give it a second thought.
I'm sure. Yeah.
It's
There's
crazy.
usually the wife sitting there looking out the window, wondering what she done with her life. And, you know, I mean, they just don't pay attention to that kind of stuff.
Crazy.
Crazy.
All right. Well, let's move on to this next story. This is a really interesting story. You're going to love this. And it's about a discovery, but it comes with a story too. Okay?
Okay.
So this is about a renovation project that's going on at Bath Abbey in the UK.
Oh.
And the workers made a startling discovery. They removed some seating that was in the ancient church, and they found a pair of mysterious coins depicting a devil beneath the seats.
Oh my God.
Now, on one side, the coins bear the Latin legend Civitas Diaboli, which means the city of devils. And on the other side, there's a Danish legend that translates to the 13th of May, 1973, Anholt. So they were really stunned by this bizarre find, by these coins. And so they talked to some experts at Wessex Archaeology. And this cool story came out about these coins. So essentially what has happened is these coins are part of something that happened in Denmark in 1973 that is being considered the prank of the century. Supposedly it was this huge hoax.
Yeah.
And so I'm going to kind of tell you the story about it because I'd never heard of it before.
Yeah, no, I've not heard of it.
And it's really crazy.
All right.
So in May of 1973.
Right. Good year, by the way.
At around the time of the full moon.
Oh, yeah.
The islanders on this, it's a Danish island called Anholt. The islanders started finding signs of satanic rituals.
Right.
And it was actually kind of freaking them out a little bit.
Of course, it was the 70s. Everything was scary in the 70s.
Exactly. So they were finding things like Polynesian-looking masks or bones wrapped in string. There was a fake human head on a stake that was kind of planted in the sand. Just a bunch of different sites, bunch of different things that were just really strange.
Yeah.
And so, of course, the media instantly took hold of this story.
Yeah.
Everybody descended on the island. They sent police officers from the mainland over there to, check it out, see what was going on. And, they cataloged and photographed all the scenes and all the items. And, the media, there was this media frenzy. They were going crazy. Oh,
Right.
Satanists on Anholt. It was this whole media storm. And so eventually the stories kind of died away. And after the media sensation sort of died away, people started finding these devil coins all over the place, like in Denmark and Copenhagen. They'd start appearing in like church crypts or behind statues or behind paintings.
Wow.
One of them was even found at the police headquarters in Copenhagen.
Holy crap.
And nobody could figure out what they were because they basically made reference to the the satanic sacrifices and stuff on Anholt and from May of 1973. So then also, along with this, these strange letters were starting to be discovered or sent. And some of them were signed by supposed satanic high priestess named Alice Mandragora. And on other occasions, they came from...
Dude, if I'd known this, Alice Mandragora would have been the name of my band.
It's a cool name.
Isn't it?
And sometimes they came from someone named Dunk Wagnall.
Oh.
Okay. So this went on for years. And eventually this whole story kind of was given some more attention, recently, where this Danish newspaper called Politiken did like a 6-part series on it. Now, I couldn't read their series because you have to subscribe to the paper and then translate it from, Dutch. Yeah. And I didn't do that. But I got the gist of it from a couple other different stories that were written. And I'm going to link to one that's really interesting that has all of the different information on it. But basically, they found out that this was an elaborate hoax done by a man named Nud Langkow, which you may have already guessed is backwards. That the name from the letter, the Dunk, is that guy's name backwards. You said it was an anagram, but he kind of got connected to it because they figured out that his name backwards is whatever that weird thing is. So this man named Nud, he actually was a very, mild-mannered guy. People that worked with him had no idea that this was his work.
Right.
And in this 6-part series that they wrote, when you get to the last one, they did this interview with his niece. Now, he has since passed away. He passed away back in 2013. He actually committed suicide. He lost his longtime partner, and I think he was very depressed, and he eventually ended up killing himself. But she talked about what a great uncle he was, and he was very gentle and mild-mannered. He was very conventional, and nobody would ever expect him to do anything wild or crazy. He worked in a little office, and
was her name Lorak?
No, he was very smart, but he had to cut his education short because his family had hardships and he had to go to work.
Yeah.
And that sort of thing. So she seemed to think that this was more of just playful, expression, and something that he just wanted to make his mark on the world. He liked to make people think and wonder.
Yeah, I do that.
So supposedly he set up all of these scenes, perpetuated this entire hoax, commissioned someone to make these coins and started leaving them all over the place. The only thing that they can't figure out is how 2 of them got to the UK under this church seat in Bath. That's still kind of a mystery. And the whole thing is very strange. And there's pictures in this article I read. There's pictures of him dressed up as this satanic priestess. And, there's a whole piece about his life. And there's pictures of him.
He's dressed up as a priestess?
Yes, he dressed up as that.
Oh, no, I love it.
Alice Mandragora.
Yeah.
Or whatever. And supposedly she said that, he was an atheist. It wasn't like he was trying to perpetuate Satanism. He was really just being a practical joker.
Right.
So they say.
It's awful deep practical joke.
It is, and it took 40 years before anybody really figured it out, supposedly. I mean, that's the story. Now, like I said, I didn't get to read the 6-part series on it, but it seems to me that they took
I'm going to subscribe to the Dutch paper.
It seems to me they took a lot of liberties in saying what he was doing, what he wasn't doing, and why he did it and why he didn't do it.
So can I buy one of these coins?
Yes, people did. They found close to 400 of them now. They'll cost you, but I think, the only people that really knew about this story are people that collected coins, because they called them devil coins, and, people in Denmark.
I definitely want some of these coins.
Yeah.
So I'm going to buy some of these coins. Mm-hmm. And that's just too cool not to have.
It's a really cool story. I don't know if I buy the whole "it's a prank" scenario. No. I feel like there's a lot more to this story.
No, they're doing the "it's a prank" thing to hide something. Obviously, there's too much to it. It's too deep. It's just.
It is, and it was very crazy. And they even said that the connection between the devil coins and Nud Lankow actually was made because of the name, but that he himself wrote a surreal travel fantasy called Anholt Exposed, and I'll actually link to a PDF of this book, which of course you'd have to translate to read. But in the story, he actually meets witches and finally meets Satan himself on that island. And that was a book that he wrote. It's not very long, but it's like 60 some pages, but it's a story that he wrote and published in like the 80s or something.
I love it.
So very interesting guy. I think it's funny that all his coworkers thought he was very conservative and, normal, but really he was just this crazy prankster that did satanic things. I don't know. It's crazy. You just never know.
Oh, I love that.
You never know about people, do you?
No, I love that. That needs to be some kind of short movie.
Yeah, it's awesome. I think that it does say in there were these people that tried to do a documentary on it, but I don't know.
They all died.
I don't know whatever came of that.
Instead, they found coins.
Well, they were trying to do a documentary on Satanism on Anholt.
Yeah.
So, I don't know how that actually went, but it's a very interesting story.
Sounds like it.
And of course, that just means that, the people in UK are like, well, now we have to just make sure that when we find something, we, look at it thoroughly and investigate it thoroughly before we say it's something, major.
Right.
So.
Yeah.
All right. Well, let's move on. And this is a story about how NASA is hunting for meteorites deep under the sea.
Oh.
Isn't that cool? So back on March 7th, a huge meteor flashed through the skies and it split up and it splashed into the waters of the Pacific Ocean.
Right.
Now, the NASA has decided that they're going to go to the ocean and comb the bottom to see if they can get pieces of this
Spaceballs.
meteorite.
comb the desert. And just picture the two stormtroopers combing the desert.
Well, if they're able to do it, this will be the first time anyone's actually recovered a meteorite from the ocean. They don't normally do this sort of thing. And the reason that they've decided to do it is because this particular meteorite was different than others. It's the largest one that Mark Fries has seen in all the years that he has been doing this. And I think there was something weird about the way it broke up. Like the way it broke up in the atmosphere before it splashed down.
Did it do it by text message?
Yeah, I think so. It was such a butthole. I don't know. It didn't break up normally. And so to me, I think this is weird. I think it's weird that this is the first time they're actually trying to find a meteorite on the ocean floor. And because of all these weird things.
So they know it's a spaceship.
There has to be something else to it.
I mean,
There has to be. I would think so, because it says it's approximately 2 tons in mass.
Yeah.
Which is crazy. And he said the fall is especially unique in that it's the largest meteorite fall to date in the data that they've collected.
Do you think there's people that hear these stories and go, yeah, it's totally the truth. Let's go watch something else.
Well, what's funny is they're going to launch some of their ROVs like the other people did.
Yeah.
And it does say that you can watch as they do it. So I'll have to put a link up for that. I'm sure there's links to go.
I would really like to see this one.
I don't know what the schedule is for that, but they say that the team are searching the Olympic Coast National Marine Sanctuary off the Washington coast. They're telling you where they're looking, and they're hoping to find, they feel like there's more than just this one particular space rock down there. So they're actually hoping to find some and bring them up, because they feel like they are not going to last as long on the ocean floor as they would, in the dirt somewhere, because of the salt water. So I don't know, very interesting. I'll be curious to see if they actually find anything under the ocean. And I hope they find this one particular asteroid, because I'm kind of curious why it's so different.
Yeah, me too, man. That's a really cool story.
Yeah.
And like you said, there's more to that.
Yeah, I think so.
There's more to that.
It's like all these stories, they tell you kind of the truth.
Yeah, they got.
But there's always
the spending, I'm sure,
Yeah, I guess so. You have to read between the lines, don't you?
But doing the live camera stuff, let's just take it for what it is. I mean, unless they shut it off like live cams from space.
Right. Now, oops, we've lost contact.
Yeah. Sorry about that. Back to the studio.
Switch it to the control room. You see a bunch of people sitting there.
Yeah.
All right. So here's an interesting article that I think you're going to like. And this is one of those articles that has kind of a clickbait title. Okay, so I'm going to tell you the title. The title is, "A New Supervolcano is Brewing Under Massachusetts, Vermont, and New Hampshire."
Yeah, totally. I would totally click on that.
So if you read this article, you'll see that it's not
brewing
something
in like a billion years.
Yeah, like millions and millions of years from now, there might be a little tiny volcano in the area.
Right.
But, the headlines are all like, oh, supervolcano under New England.
Yeah.
They're studying but it's still an interesting thing that they
No,
found.
it is.
So what has happened is that there's a heat globe beneath those 3 states, under Massachusetts, Vermont, and New Hampshire. And they first discovered it back in the 70s. And they thought that it was like an afterglow of a dead, once upwelling kind of, mantle stuff. Mm-hmm. And they actually called it the Great Meteor.
Right.
Okay, so using some fresh seismic waves to determine, all this material under there, they've concluded that there's actually an active independent upwelling of very hot rock that's taking place that is not part of this great meteor that they've always known about. So they thought that was really very interesting.
They think that it came from like pulling all the syrup out of the trees.
Maybe. So they've called it the North Appalachian Anomaly. And so they've already known about it, but
I think I dated the North Appalachian Anomaly.
You think so? Yeah. I think you may have. So even though they already knew about it, the fact that the temperatures are getting higher and that it's not part of this great meteor was actually a surprise to them. So this whole study is something that they've done and they've talked about. So that doesn't mean that there's a super volcano underneath. Now it does mean that in 50 million years, possibly there could be a volcano in New England somewhere.
Yeah.
But I thought it was funny that you could click on a couple different articles and, the headline's huge, like super volcano, New England, you know.
Well, that's all people are ever going to know. I'm sure they're talking about it right now.
I'm sure. It just points out the importance of reading the whole article.
So I would take the land on the supervolcano a lot quicker than the land on the I-95 corridor.
What if you put the land from the I-95 corridor on top of the supervolcano?
Then the supervolcano could never make it through that rock.
There you go. Problem solved,
Yeah,
right?
yeah, because that crazy rock that shouldn't be there that reflects sunlight.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
Oh, crazy. But I thought it was an interesting story. It's interesting that there is actually this activity going on, considering we just had earthquakes in Maine.
We did.
But
Very nuts.
be sure and read the whole article, because even the articles with the big
Always
sensational...
read the whole article,
Yeah.
guys. Please, God.
Even the articles with the sensational headlines actually do give you the right information in there about it taking... I mean, it's way down at the bottom, but, you know, you just have to read the whole thing.
Even political articles normally give you the right information like 3/4 of the way down.
Yeah, when you know your people aren't really going to keep reading.
Yeah.
You have to, like, click keep reading to read it.
Oh, yeah. Absolutely.
All right, well, let's move on. Let's go to a good old-fashioned possession of students in a school.
That's been too long.
It has been too long, hasn't it?
You know what? It's happened too much. I think that's the right answer.
Yes.
I'd say we have 1 a year, 2 a year,
Something like
maybe
that.
3 a year. Yeah, I could date these back all the way to 2010, dude.
Yeah.
Mass possessions in schools. Go ahead.
Okay, so some classes were suspended this morning after 30 female students were reportedly possessed by evil spirits. So how it started was a student reportedly saw a faceless man with half of his body missing inside her classroom. And students from other sections and we're talking about 8th, 9th, and 10th graders.
Wow.
They reportedly suffered from the same demonic possession, and they began shaking, and some reportedly had trouble breathing, and some people actually claimed that they saw the same vision of the same person.
Jeez.
So basically, they sent any of the students that were affected over to the church, the Our Lady of Sorrows Parish, and people prayed for them. After the situation went on for a couple hours, they finally suspended classes and sent the students home because they were becoming emotional, and they were going to invite some priests over to hold a mass in the school and bless the classrooms to drive the evil spirits away, before they let the kids come back and do class again.
Right.
So crazy.
Where was this
while.
at?
I believe this was in the Philippines.
Okay.
Yeah. So crazy story.
No, I mean, that was either the most well orchestrated, fire alarm drill. I mean, that's pretty clever.
Yeah.
I mean,
It's just crazy.
if it was, but it sounds to me like it's absolutely true.
Oh, I'm sure it is. Evil spirits can't get away with that kind of stuff in America because students just be like, look at that.
Well, it's because the students were already emotional. They wouldn't have canceled school for it. They'd have been like, oh, yeah, they showed up that way. They were really mad about something with this or that. Freaking kids.
Oh, all right. Well, let's move on. So this story, it's a lot of news today. This story is about a mysterious object that washed up on a North Carolina beach in the Outer Banks.
Oh, okay. Well, that sounds great.
Yes. So this particular beach, they actually get a lot of stuff that wash up.
I've been there many times.
Yes. So this is a large metal object, and nobody knows what it is. There's lots of speculation. So it doesn't really look alien. It's kind of roundish. It's rusty.
What does look alien mean?
Well, I don't know. It's not like, it doesn't look like a spaceship. It's just a big,
Just wondering.
round, rusty. It's slightly taller than a dining room table.
Oh,
it's pretty big.
That's weird.
Yeah, and it has this solar powered light on top.
Okay.
That actually still comes on at night.
That's weird.
Isn't that weird?
That's weird.
And the Cape Hatteras National Seashore, which controls much of the land there on the Outer Banks, says that the object's outside of their jurisdiction. They don't know what it is. And the place that it actually washed up at is not near any kind of ramps or ways to get on the beach.
Right.
So it makes it too difficult to retrieve it. So this object's actually been there for months. And it's just becoming a problem now because it's tourist season. And people are starting to be like, shouldn't we get rid of that thing? What is it? Nobody has claimed it. Nobody knows what it is. The Navy and Army Corps of Engineers say it's not theirs. And nobody can tell. I mean, it looks like a piece of equipment maybe, but nobody knows.
Wouldn't it be really...
It's very
I mean,
strange.
not funny, but what if that was like a big-ass like a bomb, like some kind of Trojan horse. Like I don't know.
Maybe. Well, someone suggested that they tried opening it to look inside, but I don't think anybody's really.
Why wouldn't they?
I don't know. I think they deemed that it wasn't dangerous, and nobody really wanted to bother moving it, so they've just kind of left it there.
That's so.
But it's really an eyesore, though. If you look at the pictures, it's huge. So it's very strange.
Well,
the light, I think, is really weird.
Let's go check it out.
You want to go to the Outer Banks?
Well, I mean, yeah, I do.
I don't know. It's very, very strange. And hopefully somebody does figure out what it is, because it's still there. It's still sitting on the beach.
Anything that's on the beach that we don't know. Whatever happened to the thing up in freaking New England?
They took it out of the water, remember?
Yeah,
and then they
I know.
took it away, and they didn't tell anybody where they took it.
Yeah, we never
and
heard
we knew we would never hear anything else about it.
Yeah, we've never heard anything about it. They got like Billy Bob's U-Haul or something.
Yeah. And they took it away and put it at an undisclosed location, which means
the back of the Indiana Jones
they're not
warehouse.
going to tell you where it is. And then, nobody remembered about it. It's just swept under the rug.
Bastards. I'd really like to know what that was.
All right. Well, let's move on. Hopefully somebody will figure out what this thing is, and I can figure it out. All right. So here's another story from New Mexico, from Roswell, New Mexico. So there is this geologist, and he likes to go and use his metal detector to find different things in the area of Roswell,
sounds like
New
a
Mexico.
children's book. Like, there is this geologist. He likes to take his metal detector and find little things in the,
His name is Frank Kimbler.
Yes.
And he believes that he's found parts of the alleged UFO crash near Roswell in 1947.
Was he part of that little?
No, this is just a hobby that he has.
Okay.
He wasn't part of the person.
Event.
The tour, yeah. And he says that some of the things that he's found could be trash, but some of it could be interesting. He doesn't really know. And he's found, about 20 different little metallic fragments and different things.
This guy's dead now.
So, what happened? The reason this article is because he's talking about it because the Bureau of Land Management took an interest and contacted him and said that they needed to talk to him. And so he got kind of paranoid. And he had some findings that he lent to the International UFO Museum in Roswell, and he asked them to send those back to him because he was afraid that the Bureau of Land Management was going to come arrest him or take all his stuff, or he had no idea what was going to happen. But it turns out that they just wanted to talk to him and remind him of the rules of finding things. He didn't really specify. Apparently, he says he got clarification on the rules and regulations, but that they didn't confiscate any of his materials. I'm not sure if they made him show them the materials and they decided they didn't need them, but it was weird. He said that he feels like the recent commercial interest in the site, Roswell, had them took notice of him there,
right,
messing around, and that's why the Bureau of Land Management got alerted to him, and they decided to come talk to him and explain to him, the
listen
rules
to the podcast
and
man.
regulations.
I was going to bury stuff out there.
But he says he's going to continue trying to find more things, but that he's going to do it the right way. I don't know what he was doing wrong. He didn't say.
I want
what
to bury
they
like
said
a
he was
little
doing
ET finger that lights up on the end.
In Roswell, we're going to go to Roswell just to bury things.
Well, I mean,
I don't know.
At least we're not making devil coins.
That's true, and hiding them in churches.
Right.
That's crazy. I wonder whoever put those devil coins in that church, they slid them underneath the seat that they probably didn't think would ever be removed. I mean, who did they think was going to find those?
I don't know, but I love those people.
Yeah.
Whoever did it. I think the devil did it. I think it's all some kind of weird.
He was a real Satanist.
Yeah.
Could be. You never know. All right. So that story is from India. And this is a story about some cops that are afraid of their police station because they say that it's haunted.
Oh, that happens in India a lot too.
It does. So this is a story about a Jharkhand police station that have been offering prayers to get deliverance from wandering spirits.
Oh.
And the people that are posted at this police station are actually terrified, and the whole place clears out and the whole station closes down by 11 p.m. Nobody will stay there overnight because they claim that they hear strange sounds from inside the station. And after it gets past midnight, the activity increases. Nobody likes to stay there. And he said the telephone lines routinely go out of order and that they have to repair them on a daily basis. Like it's an everyday problem. And they claim that the place where this haunted police station is located was earlier being used as a cremation ground by the local villagers.
Oh,
and
wow.
that's why they think that their police station is haunted with all these ghosts. So they constantly offer prayers and every month, and they, offerings to try and, calm the spirits.
Jeez.
But everyone that's posted there, they're terrified of it.
That's amazing.
Which is
crazy. They don't have prisoners there.
I guess not. I would hope that they don't just leave prisoners there. So we'll see you guys in the morning. I hope nothing bad happens.
It's like recently here in Jarkand, it'd be like Jarkand, a wonderful place to live. Crime rate 0.
Nobody wants to go to jail. All right, we just have a couple more stories.
Okay.
And this one is a story that I thought was really interesting. Now, this isn't a phenomenon that we've heard about before, but it's always weird when it happens. So this is from China, and there were some pictures that spread around on Chinese social media of some sea creatures that fell from the sky during a powerful storm.
That's weird.
So it's the phenomenon where, the storm will go over the ocean, it'll suck up the sea creatures and then drop them on other parts.
Right.
So these particular pictures, and you'll have to look at them, one of the main ones is a picture of a windshield with an octopus laying on it.
Oh my God.
Isn't that crazy? There's one with a starfish. There's like different shells, different sea creatures that were actually fell from the sky during this powerful storm that had hurricane force winds. But I thought it was really funny because, this went viral, obviously.
Right.
But I feel like it was really funny because of the octopus. Like maybe the octopus didn't come from the ocean, that it was just coming to Earth and decided that it needed some cover and like suck up some other sea creatures and I'll just jump and it'll all be good. It'll all be good. Oh my
God. You and those alien octopus.
It's actually a really cool story. You have to go and look at the pictures because it's just unreal to see all these sea creatures falling from the sky.
It's so weird.
It is.
I would love for an octopus to hit my windshield, just to be honest with you. That would be great.
This particular article actually mentioned, and I think we talked about this last September in Mexico when a bunch of fish fell from the sky in Mexico. And, they caught that on video. I think we talked about that last year.
We did.
Yeah.
We've had a few of them, actually.
Yeah. All right, so here's the last story. This one is actually very interesting. This is a story from Zimbabwe. This is about a family from a place called Manzanunu.
Yes.
And they went to court to resolve a mysterious case in which more than 20 relatives have been killed by an evil jacket that has been threatening to take more lives. So supposedly,
has it got, like, elbow pads?
I don't think so.
Plaid.
It's probably from the 70s.
Looks like Herb Tarlick.
Probably. So according to the affected family, the jacket has a spirit of a dead person who allegedly was murdered by this guy's uncle. And they alleged that their uncle, after being troubled by the avenging spirit of the person that he killed, did some kind of rituals using a jacket and then gave the jacket to a sister to give to her husband as a gift, who then fell ill and died. And supposedly this is an ongoing problem, so much so that they went to court to try and get the court to get his uncle to destroy this jacket. So I believe in the course of this, where they're trying to get some justice for this, they were told to go to Mozambique to visit a traditional healer. So in Mozambique, the healer told them that the jacket had the spirit of a dead person that was murdered by their uncle, and she told the uncle to his face that he was to blame and that he needed to destroy the jacket and remove the evil spirit. But as soon as he heard that, he became very evasive and he will not go to court. Like he's just been like, no. And he is gone. So the court has now put out an arrest warrant for him where they're going to arrest him and bring him to court so he can answer to the court for whatever he's done to this jacket to make it make people sick and die. And according to this family, they're talking like more than 20 people have died mysteriously that had something to do with whatever this uncle did.
Jeez.
Isn't that crazy? It's a very crazy story.
No, that's awesome, though. I mean, it's not awesome. It's terrible. But it's awesome that finally they're going to bring him to justice.
The reason that the court is going to go ahead and go forward with this is because this whole issue came to light after one of the children in the family supposedly got possessed by the spirit of their late father and spoke out about it. And so now it's this big deal, and this guy's going to be arrested and have to come appear in court. So very interested to see how that turns out.
Yeah, it's just nuts, man.
Killer jacket.
Yeah, no, I mean, it's really crazy.
I wish they had gone into more detail about maybe how. Like, I don't know if it just makes you ill when you wear it.
Or if it crawls down the hall and chokes you.
Yeah, or something. I know that I read one part of the story. It's one of those stories that's a little bit choppy to read, but I believe one of the women said that the coat was very heavy, unusually heavy. Like, it was weird. But supposedly it's...
Sometimes it just, you trip on it and fall down the stairs. And other times it's like it chokes you in your sleep, like, because it's... You
put it on and
blanket.
It squeezes you to death, you know, that kind of thing.
Yeah.
That's creepy.
Just strange.
It is
very
strange.
weird.
It is very strange. So that is all of my news. That's quite a lot of it.
Well, thank you very much. That was some amazing news. There was some really good stuff in there. Some space stuff, some weird stuff, some cursed stuff, ghost stuff.
Yeah, possession.
Fried shrimp,
Gotta have a
broiled
little
shrimp.
Possession.
Yeah, gotta have a little possession. But no, that was some really good stuff. If you want more good stuff, ParanormalSideshow.com. That's where you find out everything. Little possession. Facebook.com/ParanormalSideshow. There's more than just a little possession there. On the Twitter, it's at ShotShow97 or something like that. And it's all full of possessions, obviously. Instagram, Hot Possession Dam. John and Stacey Edwards. On YouTube.com, search Paranormal Sideshow. And if you are a patron and you want to go on Patreon, or you're not a patron and you need to go on Patreon, it's patreon.com/Paranormal Sideshow. And that's where you find out all kinds of cool deals. You can get t-shirts, you can get a lot of cool stuff.
Listen to our back catalog.
Listen to our back catalog and a lot of cool haunted sound stuff on there. More at it as we can get around to adding it, and a lot of cool stuff there. So anyway, from my lovely wife Stacey, my name is John. So long from the Sideshow.
Good night.
Hey guys, if you like what you've heard, please check out ParanormalSideshow.com and follow the links for our weekly podcast. Also, become a Sideshow off yourself and pick one of our killer levels on our Patreon to help support the channel and help keep us bringing you bigger and better content. So until next week, for my lovely wife Stacey, I'm John Edwards. So long and
stay strange.